Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Matt and Garrett back with you again, and we're excited to be spending some time with you. Matt's got a great topic for today, so we're going to dive into that in a second. I want to say thank you so much to everybody who's joining us today. If you want to learn more about what Matt and I do every single day, or if you are listening to this and saying, man, I wish I had someone that could help me implement Ninja and all these ideas and all these strategies in my business, we have a coaching program. We have a ton of great coaches that are specialized in Ninja to help you get there and help you build the business and the dreams that you want to achieve. And at some point we need to, and I'm hoping we're going to have a whole bunch of people on to share how they had the best year they've ever had in 2023, because we are checking the boxes of the amount of people that have come in and said, I had the best year I've ever had in a year that handed a lot of people their butts out there. And I don't mean to be mean about that, but it happened. So with that being said, if you also want to be in a community with a whole bunch of like-minded people like yourself that like what Matt and I have to say and the energy that we bring to the table, go check out the Ninja Selling Podcast community on Facebook. And we have 14,100, give or take, maybe 200 people in there now. It's an incredible community. You can share ideas, you can ask questions. And everybody in there is so gracious with their energy and their time and their thoughts. And I want to say thank you to everybody in there. With that being said, Matt, good morning, sir. Let's dive on in.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. So yes, I'm excited everybody is here. You found your way to us. If you're new, welcome. We love having you here. And Garrett, I'm excited to talk about this. We actually have done a episode on this before, but I want to get a bit more specific on closing gifts.
We're smarter now.
And closing experiences. Yeah, we've grown a little bit.
We've grown.
A couple of books that I've read kind of have opened my thoughts behind this, just kind of got my head rolling on this. But also, I've noticed more people asking about this recently. There's been a few questions inside the podcast group. It's come up in business planning a lot this season with like, hey, I really want to do something different with my gifts or the closing experience in general. And so I want to dive into that because I know that this is a space that we do an okay job as a realtor community. Like I think buyers and sellers feel acknowledged by their agent. And there's also the other side of like, well, we're also getting paid to do a service. And if we do a great job, like fantastic. But I want to go and dive a little bit deeper into what is the opportunity here to not only create an amazing experience, but something that has a ripple effect into your business and also to how those clients then go on to experience that home or whatever happens after they sell that home too.
Well, and I think, Matt, one of the things that got my attention as we were kicking around this idea to talk about is that, very easily we can have kind of a generic gift that we give out as a closing gift. We can spend all this time with these people. We are very much in an extremely emotional time for them, high stress time, lots of energy going on around this. And at the end of it, it's not that it's bad. We give them a gift that's just kind of a generic cookie cutter gift. And they're never going to sit back and go, oh man, they just didn't put any thought into this at all. They're going to accept it. And they're going to be like, well, it was really nice. Matt's a nice guy and I enjoy working with him. And like, this is great. There's an element here when you start to look at how can I customize and really make an impactful moment in an incredibly impactful moment in their life. Like every house that we've ever bought, every house, Matt, that you've ever bought, there's something about closing day when all of a sudden you got your new environment, this new place you're calling home, this new life that a couple months ago you were standing in front of going, do you think this could be ours? Like, is this really what we're going to have, this life that we're going to have, this memories that we're going to create? Is this really what we're going to have? Don't get too excited about it because it may not happen. Like, let's not get too excited about it. And then all of a sudden it happens and we have this moment to celebrate with them. And this is where you really got my attention is there's a generic gift, which is, we in other situations could be referred to as Popeyes or whatnot. Very simple little drop-off kind of thing.
Yeah, like a bottle of champagne or something like, which is, by the way, it's still good. I'm not saying this is bad, but when we're looking at elevating and being elite in this industry, like, let's see where we can go.
And again, I think, Matt, going down the lines of what is something I can do? Because the whole thing around what we're building around Ninja is creating an environment that makes people want to say, I need to tell you about Matt Bonelli. I need to share with you who this guy is and why you should hire him to help you with your real estate transaction. And when you have those moments that you can light that up, cause that to happen, cause that to want them to spread your name, like we need to take them. And the closing time is just one of these golden moments where the energy is so high that if you can be in that energy with them and attach that energy to you and your process that you have, oh, it's a golden moment that none of us lean into, I think, enough.
It really is. And Will Gradara mentions this in his book, Unreasonable Hospitality, towards the end. It's not a spoiler alert or anything if you haven't read the book, but he calls out realtors and he says, he's like, in a restaurant where we know people for a few hours, we're able to create these experiences for them. Now, granted, they have a whole system set up. And by the way, having a system and having gifts that you give to it's like the quote, the same gift, but it's customized or personalized. Like you could still do that. It's not like you have to like recreate the wheel every time. But he said, as a realtor, you spend how much time with people, and you can't think of a little thing to just customize or personalize something for them towards the end. Now, I start, Garrett, with this whole thing of closing is about the client. And a lot of times we make it about ourselves and we think about, oh, the gift, right? I got to get this gift to the client because we want to give them something nice. But let's also think about like what's going on with closing. Like there's all of this stuff going on. It's like, oh, and here's your gift. It's like, all right, cool, great. I got to sign these papers still, or I got to get over to the house, or I'm doing this.
But look at the little box of stuff. Look here, let me walk you through all the little snacks that are in here.
Right. And so I think and this is going to be different based on how every individual agent runs their closings, how it works in their state. You know, are title companies hosting this, or attorneys hosting this, or is this happening at your office? And I would start with, how can I make the experience so about the client first, right? Dennis Tuttle down in Texas, he was thinking, he used to do this, and I think they're figuring out different ways to do different things with their closing, but they would have to set up a parking spot, a special parking spot for the person coming in to do the closing, right? And it's like their name on it, like welcome and all this stuff, and just make the experience awesome. Forget about the gift. Let's just make the experience great. There is a gift that is given with every single closing as well, which is the house key. How do we make the presentation of the key exceptional where it's like, here it is? Because that's the moment, right? It doesn't need to be, and that's where maybe you tie it to a bottle of champagne. That'd be pretty cool too. Like there's different things you can do, but I would start with thinking, Garrett, like, how do we create this experience? Because I will say, my most recent house closing, now granted, being the agent for yourself, like I'm not going to be like, hey, Matt, here's a great present, like all that stuff.
So awesome. My agent gave me the best clothes. Who's your agent? Oh, it was me.
It was me. It was amazing. My agent bought me a house. It was so cool. But we walked into our closing and was told, oh, we're not ready to close. Talk about an experience. You walk into the attorney's office, like, no one told you that they don't have everything done yet? No one told us, because no one communicated with us from the builder side that, oh yeah, we still had to wrap up these things. So
I was going to ask you who the realtor was, but
yeah,
we'll leave that on the table.
Yeah, we'll kind of set that aside. But fascinating, right? Particularly the day before, we confirmed everything. Hey, we're good to go. This is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to go do this. Yep. Oh, no. So now, even if there is a hiccup, if you create an experience, I feel like you can smooth those things over if you are designing an experience that's totally focused on the client.
Well, this goes back to the saying, which is there are no problems, they're just opportunities. And I love that saying, because we can very easily go, oh my gosh, 5-alarm fire. Like, how do we, what, this is a problem. And the reality is that, I look at when problems come up, this goes back and do like the extreme ownership type of stuff. It's like when problems arise, whether you were the cause of it or somebody else was the cause of it, but we're having to receive the effect of somebody else making a mistake. How can we run in? Like, you can easily sit there and go, oh, damn it, I've been using this title company for a long time and they've done this to me a couple of times, or this attorney's office has done this to a couple of times, and I really apologize. I should have known. We should have gotten some backup, whatever the crap lines we can go down. We can also sit there and say, no, how can we make this situation right? How can we fix it right now? And us take ownership of it. Not saying that we're going to say, oh, I need to take all the blame. I'm the one responsible, different.
Yeah.
But saying, how can I make this right now? These opportunities exist around us all the time to step in and to be these problem solvers and to be the ones that the clients will walk away saying, I'm so grateful that we had this person in our world guiding us through this time right now. Because you can blow that thing up. You can easily turn what you had happen, Matt, into a step up transformer situation where you just fire everybody up at the last minute and make that be the last memory of them going through the working relationship with you. Or you can use it as an opportunity to come in and say, here's how we're going to handle this. And I've got it taken care of. You guys don't need to worry about anything. I'm going to make this right for you guys. And then you're the home run person. You're the person that they're at the end of it. They're like, I'm so grateful. It's just these little moments that exist. Closing is so powerful though. Such a powerful moment.
Well, and so I look at closing now as not a day, right? And I think with every client that you have, you have to look at it as this window that exists because you're going to have people who close and move in the same day. You're going to have people who close and don't move in for a month. You're going to have all of these different things that happen. And so I think you can start by looking at your process and say, okay, how do we look at this closing thing and have certain things in place where we're able to make this experience about the person, where we have things that are kind of our normal way of doing things, but create an amazing experience that we can then now take and tweak and customize for each individual person who's going through. So it could be, hey, we are going to have a closing experience. There is going to be a gift, and there is going to be something else that takes place, a key presentation, let's say. Well, okay, now for Garrett, who has a closing coming up next week, here's how all that's going to take place. For Matt, who has a closing the following week, here's how that is all going to take place. And you can break that down, and instead of just clumping it into one thing, you break it down to make sure each individual has their own little experience where you're still doing the same thing, technically, but you've now customized it, which makes it special for that person. It also allows you to show up, I think, with the right energy when you're doing these things. And now you've done something a little bit different. Now, if they have gone through a closing before, they're going to know that that's different. They're going to know that that feels a little bit more special than it would have, because most people experience a very similar closing. You go to some office you've never been to before, you meet somebody who you've never met before, and you sign some documents that hopefully you've seen before, but probably not, because who's going to look through 150 documents? You're just kind of like, tell me the highlights. Am I signing the things? And the attorney's like, yeah, this one gives a power of attorney to this, blah, blah, blah.
If you've done it enough, it's one of those like repetitive, like, am I supposed to sign with my middle initial or no middle initial? Well, it has a middle initial on there. And so, okay, well, I never usually sign with my middle initial. So now I'm going to sign this thing awkwardly for the next 100 signatures. And then there's always that one that you forget the middle initial on, and they're like,
oh, we need to redo this one.
Oh, you don't have your middle initial on this one.
So just now initial this, we're going to do a change here, initial that.
This is always my experience. I'm like, why did we even agree to have it? Like, who put my middle initial on there? But you're right. It's the same experience all the time.
Or it could be nothing happens. Like some sellers, like if you're working with sellers, they often don't even go to a closing, right? When I sold it, I didn't go to any closing when I sold my house. And so, okay, how do we create an experience there for those people? If you think they're first, then it's going to be a lot easier to get into, okay, now what are we going to do on the gift side?
Yep. You know, it's interesting, when the homes that I've always bought, well, the ones that I can remember, it's funny, the realtor was not the one that made the big deal out of closing. It was actually my lender that made the biggest deal out of closing. And if I look back on a handful of transactions that I've done in my time, at least a certain moment in my life where I was using this certain lender, I have some amazing memories of that day of closing of the actual lender that I was using. And it was simple stuff. Their customized thing to me. So little shout out to Susan and Peter Tamashiro. Don't know if they're still doing lending in Grants Pass, Oregon. If they are amazing. Always have been amazing. The crazy customized closing gift was they had a bucket with all kinds of great treats in it and a bottle of wine, but all the treats were things that you liked. They had gone through and pulled like all the great stuff that they knew you were going to like. They put a lot of thought into that. And then Peter was a horrible artist, but he owned it. He would take a balloon and a black Sharpie, and on the balloon, he would draw something of the transaction, that as we went through the transaction together, some memory of the transaction. And so we had one where my dad was flying. He wasn't helping us. He's helping my parents buy a property. And I remember being there and coming in and seeing the balloon, and it has an airplane flying around on one side of it. And in the window, you can see a little thing, and there's like a little note on it that says, "This is your dad." And then around the other side of it, it was one of those things that's like, you guys were in this with us. You knew all the moving parts. You took time to think about it. And it was special looking at that balloon because it brought me back to all the shenanigans that had to happen to get it to this point right here. It doesn't have to be incredibly expensive or fancy or anything like that. And again, in all of our podcasts we've done in the past, Matt, where we've talked about this, we've talked about like specific gifts, like things you can give and things that are memorable and things that are sticky and you're going to hang on to. But I think what I love about where you're going today with this and we're going today with this is it's about acknowledging what the process is and acknowledging who these people are and trying to take that moment to be part of that with them. And it doesn't have to be crazy and over the top. It can be as simple as a balloon with a black Sharpie drawing. And sorry, Peter, for picking on your drawing. It was amazing. I still remember it.
Well, how cool is that, right? Too, you even think about that, like the opportunity for a lender. And there are a lot of lenders that are listening to this, like the opportunity for you to pick up referral business, because most people out there, oh, I want to go rate shopping. I want to do this. And like one of the most difficult things lenders run into is how do we showcase the value of having somebody who can get you to the closing table? Because people don't know until that gets missed. And so that's why people are like, ooh, let me just click on that company with the spaceship thing that I can click on. I'm just not mentioning the name because I don't want to I don't know, everybody knows who I'm talking about. And people go that route and then they miss closings and all this kind of stuff. And they don't know the pain until they're there. Whereas if you have it like that, where you're like, you guys got to use this lender because they're amazing. The experience that you have, they're going to do this. They take care of this. And, whatever it is. And cool, I'm going to go use them because I know and I have the confidence that's going to work. The same thing applies to realtors too, only even more so. If a lender can get that much from y'all during a transaction, imagine how much the realtor also probably got and would have been able to create that, because your memory is the lender, not the realtor, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is the lender. And again, it's funny as I remember, and as I was saying it, there's times that we use them in my family as a lender and I was blown away. And that's actually, again, these are the memories that I have is they weren't even helping me out, but it was fun because when I did refer them, it is one of those things I was like, just wait for closing day, which is, it's funny. You think about it, that how many people say that about the lender that they're referring them to? Wait for closing day, like wait to see what they do. Like
usually people highlight the problems that, oh, I had to send them the documents 100 different times, which that can all get overlooked with a wonderful experience during or at closing, post closing.
Yep.
The realtor can do so much to even partner with lenders on doing this stuff too. Think about, as a realtor, all the different people that you get to communicate with who would love to help create an experience. Like, I don't know people who are like, no, we want people to have a bad time with this. We don't really care about putting a smile on their face. Like, even if you called ahead to the title company or the attorney's office, like, hey, do you think if I dropped off a sign, you guys can put it up in the front to welcome my clients in for closing? They'd probably say, yeah, sure, we could do that. Like, you don't even have to control the entire environment. You can literally partner with people to make the experience amazing, and then they get benefit from it too. Imagine that attorney's office or the lender like, oh, that's such a cool idea. And then they get the benefit of being part of it with you. Then they feel all good because they made somebody feel happy. Like, the ripple effect of making smiles happen through this is incredible.
So I was taking a second here to see if Susan and Peter were still operating up there. I think they are. It's funny. It's such a small little kind of mom and pop little. I don't think they've ever built out a huge website and a huge presence and a huge thing, because they have their little office down in Grants Pass and they've got a huge number of, they're really ninjas is what they are. And my feeling is that they probably have a ton of relationships around town where they're like, we don't need to have all these fancy stuff and things.
All the big presents and everything.
Platinum Financial is the company that they actually owned in downtown Grants Pass. I hope it's still there. They're incredible people. Sorry, I'll be done with that. You're welcome, Susan and Peter.
Well, kind of just taking a turnover to gifts for a moment, and because we have talked about gifts, but I do want to, I mentioned Unreasonable Hospitality as one of the books that kind of shaped a new thought process of how we can do these things. But Giftology by John Ruhlin is another book that I've read recently, which it's a very short book if y'all want to pick it up. But there's a couple of things in that book that made me think about gifts. One was the personalization. And we've talked about this. We had a whole episode on like, do you put your logo on it? Do you not? He's totally not a fan of that. I think there is a time and place for having things that is branded stuff. But when it comes to closing, though, and you're making it about the other person, that is definitely the time to make it about them and not stamp your logo over everything that you give to people. And the other thing that stood out to me on this one, Garrett, is making sure, because this is not something that you think about. I mean, we all like to give quality things, but when you put it in this language, I think it changes the way you think about it, which is making sure that if you're going to give a gift, whatever it is, make sure it's the best in class of that gift, right? So if you're going to give somebody a pen, make it the best pen that exists. And in one of the examples he uses in the book was he had, I guess, a client of his, because he runs a gifting company, wanted to give his clients watches as a gift. And his clientele happened to be wealthy individuals. But he had a lot of people he wanted to give that to. So he ended up gifting fossil watches, which there's nothing wrong with a fossil watch, but he was gifting it to people who owned Rolexes and Panerais and, all the kind of fancy watches. And so it just wasn't best in class. And so the gift fell flat. And so he said it would have been better off for him to either shrink his size of people that he wanted to gift to, or just choosing a different gift that he could give best in class. Like, even if it's not as expensive, it doesn't have to be a watch. It could be a drinking cup, but you give the best cup, you give the best wine glasses, you give the best wine bottle, whatever it could be.
Well, we've joked about this, Matt, not to name drop any products here, but like the Yeti type stuff, the Yeti glasses, they make wine glasses, they make all kinds of stuff now, like from the coffee cups to thermoses to whatever it is. It's different than getting I'm trying to even think of, all I can think of is The Jerk, picking out a thermos for you. You all know the song. If you've known The Jerk, you're singing the song with me right now. But it's different than giving like a thermos like that compared to giving one that you're like, ooh, like this. And is it more expensive? 100%. Does it make an impact though? One is just stuff. The other one is something that when you get, you're like, oh, like this is substantial.
Yeah.
I think the watches are a very good kind of place to play with that. Now, would I go give somebody a Rolex? Probably not.
So then you just choose a different class of gift. That's all.
Now, at the same point, there might be the right client for the right property, for the right deal, for the right situation, that if you're going to give them a watch because they appreciate watches, yeah, you might step it up and you might get them that watch that they're going to be like, oh, dude, you shouldn't have.
Yeah, for the right person.
For the right person.
And this is where you take gifts to the next level. If you know somebody so well at closing where you're like, hey, this is something like, I know they're a collector of these things. This is, maybe you're doing a $10 million real estate deal and you're like, you know what, I'm going to spend $10,000 on a watch for this person. Maybe that's something that you do.
Only if they appreciate watches, though. If you give me a $10,000 watch, you might as well have given me a fossil watch. I'm just telling you right now. Like, does it tell time?
Yeah, I agree.
No, it's not about time, dude. It's about how it looks on your arm and like no, it doesn't do anything for me. Like, I'm just going to damage it. All I'm going to do is damage it.
Do you even wear a watch, Garrett?
I have a watch, but again, it's one of those things like okay. So all of you out there, as you get to know me better, what you will know about me is I'm a little squirrely. I'm a little reckless. I've had lots of stitches in my life. And when you give me nice things, I damage them.
They break.
I am like moving too fast. So like, again, a nice watch like that is like, sweet. I can't wear it. I'm just going to hurt it. Like, that's all that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I think it just highlights well, you got to know your people when it comes to giving a specific gift. You got to know your people.
Yeah.
And what are they going to value? And then find, okay, of that sector of gifts that I'm willing to give, either whether it's kind of this is something I'm always going to do for closing, or I want to do it for this person, where is the best in class version of that gift versus just getting something? Because there's one thing of like, having products that you hand out at conferences and things like that, which I even think that's a waste of money for people, the little tchotchkes and things that people give out, because a lot of it gets thrown away unless it's best in class. Eric Hardy on the Ninja Planner site, he sells these ninja selling journals, and they're really nice. And like he's given them to us as gifts, and I keep them because Garrett's holding one up right now. Like they're really nice. And I would consider that. Now, I don't know what the companies are that do those things, but that's a best in class gift.
They're nice enough. It would never go in the trash can because I've gotten numerous of those from him over the years, and I regift them. And it's not a regift like, how do I get it out of my house? Like, it's one of those like, this would be cool to give to so-and-so because I know they're going to appreciate it.
It's that good.
It's going to be a nice touch.
Yes.
That's an interesting way to look at it, Matt, because if you're giving best in class, like I look at like Jen Egbert, who I've mentioned many, many, many times over the podcast episodes, but she's somebody that I coach in Boulder, Colorado. For a while, the tchotchke kind of stuff that she was giving out was power blocks, and they had her logo on it and everything like that. Those power blocks that she's given us have traveled the world with us. We literally have taken them all over the world as backup battery packs. And my kids know them as the Jen Egbert battery packs. Like that's how they know them because they have her name on the side of it. And I don't look at it and be like, oh, that's cheesy. Like I'm going to take that darn thing with me because it works and it's awesome. And I love them. And they've saved us many, many times when we're in weird spots and we can't find power.
And there's so many of those things that don't work, by the way, that you can buy off of like the websites that get your logo on them and they're cheap. And I've received those and I'm like, ooh, cool. I got this. I'll charge my phone with it. And it sucks. And I'm like, oh,
it's probably 7 years ago she gave them to us and we still use them.
It's awesome.
And that's rare.
Yeah. Batteries in general. Yeah, they don't.
But again, so going back, this isn't necessarily, we've kind of deviated a little bit. We started off with closing gifts. We've kind of gone through a little bit of a journey here with different types of stuff you can give. But going back to the closing gift side of it, Matt, one is making it impactful. The other thing is if you're going to give stuff like this and at a time like this, I think it's good that we don't just give stuff. It's not just giving things. It's not just giving, and it's not necessarily going to be about us. It's about celebrating this moment that they're in. The things that I've seen that really aren't that expensive, and now with technology nowadays, you can do easily. I've loved the idea of like a watercolor or something, or a hand drawing, a pencil drawing of the property they're moving into.
That's cool.
I've seen that done. I have seen that hanging on people's walls in their house.
Or the property they moved from. If they've had a lot of lovely experiences in that home, they want to remember that home.
Yep. If they're having a hard time leaving a certain house, and we've all seen it, the day that I sell this house that I'm currently in right now, it's not just going to be on to the next property. I will say any realtor who's going to help me with the sale of this house, if you decide to do a watercolor or a drawing, know who I am. I don't want a picture of the front of this house. I want a picture off the back deck. That's what I want. I want a picture of the view, and that's what you can send me away with. That will be something that I would hang on a wall to always remember what this home was to me. And so those are the things of knowing who your clients are, taking that time of understanding them. Just because it's one thing for one, it's not a front picture of everybody's house. It might be something that's special to them as you start to customize those things and whatnot.
So pulling this all together, I think what we would like people to walk away with is, one, think about the closing experience. Go and look at like, how do you want to elevate the closing experience for your buyers and sellers? That's the first thing. The other thing is, what do you want to pay attention to during the transaction? How can you get to know certain things about your clients that will allow you to provide a gift for them that is special? And the third thing I would say is, if you want to have something in your kind of your bank of things that you would provide clients at closing, what are some gifts that kind of are relative to you and your brand? What are things that would bring value to your clients in their home and things like that? And how do you make it the best in class gift that you can possibly give? Think about that. And it's going to change the experience for your people, which is going to create a whole lot more smiles. And that's what I hope everybody kind of takes away from this.
Love it, man. Good topic.
Yeah, man. Thanks for jamming on it with me. And thank you, everybody, for showing up and tuning in to the podcast as always. If you want to join our community and you're not in there yet, head over to Facebook and search for the Ninja Selling Podcast. Garrett and I are brainstorming some fun ideas that we're going to be implementing inside that community into you're already listening to this. It is 2024. Throughout this year, then.
Remember, Matt, we're in the future.
We're in the future, right? So definitely check that out. And if you want to learn more about coaching, you can hit us up as well if you want to take your business to the next level this year, because maybe you're like, hey, I would be great to have somebody in my corner. There are a lot of coaches that work with Ninja Coaching who are incredible people helping individuals just like you go to the next level, have more income per hour, have more life, whatever it is that they're looking to accomplish. And so you can reach out to us. You can post a question in the community about it. Head over to ninjacoaching.com. However you want to find us, that's where you can find us. Hope that you all have an incredible day. Appreciate you. Garrett, appreciate you, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Have a great day, everybody. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.